Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring new founders on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building startups. And today we have with us the duo Sunil Kharbanda and Haresh Calcuttawala, who are building Trezix Software, which is a SaaS platform for import and export businesses. Hi, Sunil and Haresh. Welcome to ELI.
Hi,
Hi,
thank you,
hi.
yes, Priya.
Yeah. To start with, before we start talking about the company and the platform itself, would love to hear about both of your backgrounds. How has been your journey over the year, and how did you arrive at entrepreneurship? So, would start with Sunil.
Hi, thanks, Priya. My name is Sunil Kharbanda. I'm one of the founders of Trezix. Born and brought up in Delhi. I've done all my education. I'm a management graduate
Mm-hmm.
and started working in sales while I was great in terms of coding, but did not choose that profession and got into sales because I always used to love meet people from different walks of life and
Mm-hmm.
relate to them. So that's where I got into sales, and then there was no looking back. I worked for companies like Microsoft, sorry, for Oracle, SAP, and initially I had worked for certain boot startups, right? Who were selling Microsoft products, who were selling, Sybase, PowerSoft products. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's where my journey started from. And I think on in 2018, there was a feeling that I've spent a lot in terms of being in corporate life and something I want to do on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And since being in the ERP industry for more than 25 years, there was an itch of doing something for global trade management because we always used to see that there was no straight line of digitization for this piece.
Right.
Uh, and obviously it was not glamorous to initially to start with. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
used to say import export kya hai, matlab, it is coming from one country to another country. There are
Right.
certain ways to do it, but nobody felt that there was a huge amount of complexity when the whole world will start thinking that import export can be the fourth pillar of the economy, right? Largely
Mm-hmm.
the export part of it, that after you taking care of the consumption of your country, you're exporting something which is surplus and getting more money from those countries, right? So I think 2014, 15 onwards, it started becoming a big buzzword that export can be the fourth, pillar of the GDP, and countries can jump GDP rankings in a big way. You see
Mm-hmm.
how India has jumped, right? We are now almost third
Right.
in the whole GDP ranking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, with me, Haresh, and our other co-founder Salesh, we always used to bond on customer implementations and cricket, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where we thought that this is a space where nobody is really focusing on, and this is going to become huge, complex. I think by 2016, 17 is where me and Haresh started looking at the whole, bilateral trade agreements, that they will always the whole world will get into a kind of a trade zone where everybody would want to benefit from the trade they are doing, or if there's something coming into the country, they would like to have great amount of quality which is coming into the country. So that's where I think we were aware, we were projecting a lot of things, and in 2018 I hung my boots
Mm-hmm.
uh, and started working with the startup world as being one of their advisors on the board. I was waiting for Harish and Sailesh to join me because they were planning to join me in 2019, and when they basically joined, we started Trezix. Now, entrepreneurship was always there because in 1998 till
Mm-hmm.
2002, I did my own stuff with some friends in Singapore.
Okay.
And, that's where I got the whole, I would say, I got to see the whole other side of entrepreneurship. And I was very keen in terms of, taking it ahead. But obviously, you always have certain pockets to really learn and understand before you get to holistic piece of get becoming an entrepreneur. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I still felt at that point in time that I had certain areas which really I need to develop. I need to take help from large corporates, and that's where I joined Oracle and SAP to learn how to build large businesses. And I think by 2018, I felt that yes, I was there. You're never 100% there, but you were there to, take the jump into entrepreneurship. So that's
Wow.
been my story in my journey in terms of, taking my leap into entrepreneurship. It's now 7 years. I'm,
Mhm.
I'm, I'm pretty happy what I'm doing.
Got it. Wow, interesting story. I would also love to hear from Haresh. How has been your journey so far?
Yeah, so I'm Haresh. Thanks for inviting us here. I am born and brought up in Surat, typically a Gujarat, you can say a city of diamond and textile, where 90% are entrepreneur, right?
Hmm.
But my background is more studying law and commerce,
Mm-hmm.
and then did a lot of, I think I'm in masters in other areas like operations and all, and then joined Reliance. And Reliance was my first thing, fantastic journey. Was
Mm-hmm.
part of Reliance when it is at their peak of growth, right? So growing from Hazira to Jamnagar to, like, multiple places, global acquisitions, and that's where I started picking up logistics and then got into from business to IT.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I learned IT. So most of my IT learning, or you can say the ERP processes, large transformation projects. Okay, so that's the learning which I had, and then got into multiple different businesses of Reliance. Like Reliance was acquiring, diversifying a lot of business. So be it acquisitions, be it new ventures,
Mm-hmm.
and then joined an Rockwell Automation. So that Conexen, actually part of Rockwell. So that was in US. I had a short stay in US, and then joined SAP.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Sunil, Salesh, we are all together in SAP. Again, SAP, we had a very different roles. So I started with consulting, was part of couple of product developments, product management, and then largely I spent time in program delivery, project delivery kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all large transformation. So we got some sort of a specialization in that.
Okay.
And then I was partner with EY for from 2015 to 2019. Again, like, building the whole technology piece for EY as a practice, and then solving a lot of customer problems. So in this whole journey of almost more than 25 plus years, we were being solving this customer journey and typically problems in area of logistics. And one common point of discussion between three of us was always like, one area which nobody is able to address, and that's an always a pain, was around exim, right? And then a lot of thing happening. So 2015, 16, I think the GST regime when it started, and Sunil, being in his past, had that entrepreneurial strength. So he was always motivating us that let's do something of our own. And after experiencing my partnership with EY, I was also thinking so in that line.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was the first to kind of like, take that lead and kind of motivating us that, okay, now or never kind of situation. So 2018, we had an active conversation, and the area was pretty much kind of identified, like, that nobody is in this space, and it's a little bit of very unstructured, unorganized sector.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, virtually the digitization was not even a percent there, right? So you're not even 1% or even less than half a percent. So I think 2019 I came on board. By the time Sunil was already in kind of his already joined the startup world, interacting with a lot of startups.
Mm-hmm.
So started putting structure from there, and then we are together since that.
Got it. Got it. All right. Let's start talking about Trezix. Help us understand the uh, before we start talking about the platform itself, would love to understand who is it meant for. Who are our typical customers? Is it the large enterprises or smaller businesses? Is it only for Indian companies, or is it applicable across the globe? And what particular pain points are you solving? So when you talk about global trade, there are a lot of different areas you can solve for. For example, finance is a challenge, cross border payment is a challenge, logistic is a challenge, getting visibility, tracking the couriers and shipments, that's a challenge, and a lot of such other challenges are there. uh, Documentation is a challenge. So which of these challenges are you solving for?
So look, we have always worked for a very holistic kind of an approach. Like ERP is an holistic approach. I remember when I started selling, ERP was not ERP, it was a manufacturing resource planning software, right?
Mm-hmm.
And slowly companies really looked at manufacturing is not the only one, right? You've got in an organization finance, HR, sales and distribution, material management, vendor, so on and so forth. And then came these ERPs, SAPs, Oracles, Infors, of the world. Having come from that industry, when we looked at this problem, we looked at where it initiates from, right? I would say, catch the issue at the root, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can, until unless you create a foundation, you cannot create a 70-story building, right? So we knew where the foundation issues were because, when you are implementing an ERP, you know which area is not at all looked after from an automation, digitization point of view by all the software companies.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew that the problem was largely importers and exporters, right? The persona was importers and exporters. You call it documentation, you call it tax calculation, you call it custom filing, you call it track and trace. These are all build-ups.
Okay.
But where the single source of truth is, the single source of truth lies with the importer and the exporter. So we said, let's start from there because the biggest pain area is there, right? And if you look at importers, exporters, the 70% of their work is outside their company, right? It is not an enterprise resource planning internally, it's an XRP, it's an extended resource planning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we started building the whole piece from the source that my purchase order, if I say import, it is procure to pay. So my purchase order is built by importer.
Mm-hmm.
My sales order is built by the exporter, right? So here, if the digitization doesn't start from here, then whatever you do, where Modi government was running very fast in terms of giving single window, asking for digital trail, where will you get that from? Until
Mm-hmm.
unless these importers, exporters start digitizing their whole process and
Okay.
also getting their stakeholders on same platform so that everybody is sharing a single source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So people were doing piecemeal. We said, no, we're not going to go after piecemeal. Our expertise lie in process, right? We understand process very well. We understand, apart from the import export process, we understand chemical very well. We understand auto very well. We understand oil very well. We've worked in 14 vertical, industries. So we
Mm-hmm.
understand the nuances also very well. So how do we really structure? And having come from SAP, being a great, ERP, learning from them how they really started working on the ERP, our fundamentals were very clear
Okay.
that we will work, with customers to build the software. We will create a software which is 70% global and 30% in the rest 30% are nuances of the industries and localization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is how we build the software. So today, if I look at, you can use my software in US, you can use my software in Europe, you can use my software in Asia Pac, you can use my software in Middle East and North Africa, right? And the kind of problem we are solving for them, and largely, when there is no digitization, what are you faced with? Visibility is a big issue, right? Finance control is a big issue. You said documentation control is a big issue. Shipment control is a big issue. Working in a collaboration and shrinking the time to process a big issue. And we've sorted all of them out.
Mm-hmm.
Today with the customers, if you look at the way they kind of, gone through sorting out each and every issue and making it one integrated platform for themselves and their collaborators, which is a bank or a clearing agent or regulatory bodies like DGFT, IceGate, customs, shippers, insurance companies, they're all working together in a parallel mode,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what we've built, and those are the kind of problems we've sorted out for our customers.
Got it. Uh, One thing I have observed, I think I was reading it somewhere. I think when you talk about ERPs like SAP or Oracle, I think they are built in a way, their structure is so legacy that they are not very AI savvy, AI native. So it's very hard to integrate AI into those platforms. Having said that, I think Trezix is heavily working on AI. It's a AI native platform. A lot of AI features are there. How do you sort of, build AI into the platform? Where exactly are you leveraging the AI, and how is AI fundamentally changing the process for any of your client?
Good.
So let
Nesh,
me
I
put
think it's your turn now.
yeah, that's what. So let me put it this way. So we have engrossed AI as part of our DNA across the organization, whether it's an internal or whether it's an from a product perspective. If we
Mhm.
really talk about the product, we are trying to make sure that we use all parts of AI, which is like, talking from an Gen AI to agentic AI to intuitive AI, right? Because the way AI is getting structured, and I mean, we also keep learning. So as Sunil also started with, like, learning has no bar, and we are also trying to make sure that we always remain ahead of curve. So whether people talk about, like, in a compliance piece, like, whether AI can really help. Yes, AI can definitely help with a clear cut, a concept of human in loop, because the critical decisions, like, it's in compliance at the end of the day. So
Mm.
how do we make sure that autonomous functions are automated, and we make sure that humans are also taken in loop, right? So that's a baseline. Getting into more of, like, how do we make sure that the AI we leverage in terms of even the internal functions, okay, whether we do sales or we do pre-sales or we do demand generation demos or anything, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So our AI strategy is very simple, like, we want to be an AI first company in terms of whatever we do,
Okay.
uh, whether it's a support function also like HR, finance. And from if I talk about, like, what exactly some of the use cases, if I really highlight, okay.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say we handle right now as complex as, like, 400 or 800 page of bill of entry, which is something like, very, very complex, right? But
Mm.
no human intervention. We handle, like, people sending in bill of uploading bill of entry with any language. Okay, we I right now have customers who are rolled out in 42 countries, multiple multi-guel, multi-formats. Okay, but the system has that capability to read, not only read, convert into a right data set, ensure that you are doing a right record keeping, creating a single version of truth, because compliance is such a piece that anything can open up as an query or as an audit after 5 years, after 7 years. How do we make sure our customer, after putting Trezix, have minimal of effort to whatever activity or whatever task or whatever compliance query they respond, right? And that's where time to even handle those things really need to get automated. I think that's the area we are focusing largely.
Got it. Got it. It's an interesting use case.
I just want to add here, I think the biggest myth of, this whole chain about people talking about documentation, people talking about storage. I think today the global trade has to understand it is not about moving goods,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is moving intelligence.
Yeah.
That's important because today you look at the kind of reciprocal tariffs we have, right?
Right.
If the system doesn't understand the way you work, and a system has access to regulatory information, it can be it can move intelligence from one level to another level, and that's what we need today. So
Mm.
conversion to data and moving to intelligence is what is required by global trade today.
Got it. You spoke about AI, which is one of the leading technologies right now. I think some of the global trade platforms are also implementing blockchain quite actively, especially in the payment space where multiple entries are happening at different countries. Governments are also recording the payment. Same happening to the logistic. The info is captured in multiple softwares, multiple nodes across the globe. So are you working in the front of blockchain? If yes, tell us about it.
So let me put it this way, okay? So uh, we are trying to make sure, like, that we are not married to one technology. Okay, we are trying to make sure. For example, let's say we also have to see the viability of the customer as well as the protection. Okay, when I say protection, it's a data protection, document protection, and all. So, for example, distributed ledger, right?
Mm,
Or there are various mechanisms, and then AI intelligence, distributed ledger. So blockchain, what we are talking about is, like, exists for last 15 years, but
right.
the viability also is very important. So the way we have come up with our structure is to make sure that we try to provide a single window with the same functionality and feature, making sure that the same document is accessed by multiple player with right roles and authorization permissions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to say, like, in a one word, that it's not 100% you can say a blockchain, or you can't name it as a blockchain, but we have our own mechanism which equivalent to that, which suffice the requirement of the business. Okay, that is something which is very important, because at the end of the day we have to be also like, little bit flexible, viable, and most important thing is, like, the need, business need, which has to be 100% addressed.
And it needs to be
Now,
tested, yeah.
mm,
It needs to be time tested. I have honestly not seen a lot of companies who have time tested on blockchain. While it's a great concept, and I'm very sure that that's gonna build into future.
mm,
But I think it needs to be still time tested, volume tested. And I think today what people largely are using are distributed ledgers than blockchain in,
yeah.
in, in its whole functionality. And I think that's where we need to basically wait and understand that how AI and blockchain will, combine together, embrace together to ensure that it is much, much faster for a customer.
Got it. Uh, I was also reading this somewhere that your platform also unifies suppliers, the customs brokers and regulators sometimes. So is that true? Do you also give sort of interfaces to regulators or custom officers or any other stakeholders onboarded to your platform, or is it just the importers and exporters?
So I think, see, as I said, 70% of my work is outside my organization. So the platform needs a solid collaboration foundation, right?
Mhm.
So today, my platform has that solid collaboration in terms of, as a customer, I can give an access to my customer, my distributor, my clearing agent. I'm anyways connected to all regulatory sites like IceGate, eSancheti, CBIC, DGFT, right? I can do whatever I need from there. If I need to do a license, kind of a consolidation or reconciliation, I can take help from DGFT, right?
Mhm.
So all these collaborations have to be built if you want to be the number one global trade management platform, right? Because without these stakeholders, I think I will only be able to achieve 30% out of my system, right? And the most important thing, what I said in the beginning, was that single source of truth, which
Mhm.
helps me to
Yeah.
be credible across stakeholders, which helps me to be credible across the globe, right? In terms of a trusted exporter, importer, and also it helps me to be compliant across my executed transaction.
Got it.
So
Yeah,
that,
I mean, just to put a summary, see, basically, we are trying to make sure that no single stakeholder is left out. Okay. So and system capability is such that tomorrow new stakeholder comes in, we don't need any time. We just can onboard immediately.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And tell us a bit about the different use cases that you have been implementing. So you operate in different industries from pharmaceutical to steel to petroleum and so on, and you operate in different markets as well. And each of these markets and industries would have their own nuances to it. Use cases would be different. You also mentioned initially that 70% of your platform stays the same, but there are always 30% customization that happens for a particular implementation. So tell us about those tailoring process. Like, how do you tailor your offering to a particular industry or market or any other such? Yeah.
So,
So
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 let
when I
me put it.
yeah, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Sunil. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think when I said 70% of the platform, is same across the globe, and 30% is largely, I would say, those are wrappers around vertical industries like your pharma, oil, because they have their own nuances.
Mhm.
Let me give you an example. For
Yeah.
pharma industry, batch is always important, right? The origin of a molecule to a medication is very important, right? What were the quality parameters there, and how it is being contracted or created by a manufacturing based out in India, Mexico, Canada, wherever it is, right? So API to medication, the whole process is very important. Now those are the nuances of a particular industry, right? For chemical, hazardous, non-hazardous is important. So those are the wrappers we create, which basically takes another 10%, off. Then another 10% takes integrating with customs in US, customs in India, customs in Germany, right? Those are the 10%. Rest, only the 10% are the nuances of how a corporate really functions, right? So I might have a one level of approval, somebody would have three levels of approval. And these are not customizations, these are all configurations. And that's where today we implement our product in 3 to 4 months and get out of the organization, because everything is so templatized, within the system. Harish, and go ahead with the use cases.
Yeah, no, I mean, see that's what. So we try to make sure that whatever that 70% is global, we also make sure that it's a combination of industry and the localization, which is geo, right? So
Mhm.
every geography has its own nuances, and every industry within the geography has its own nuances, right? So it's a cross vertical between geo and the industry. And as Sunil rightly said, 10%. Now, when we talk 10% also, no, largely those 10% is also configurable, right? So it doesn't need like, too much of like somebody need to tailor it. It is the system is designed in such a way that, okay, I can configure one level or two level or three level approval or multiple notifications or a single notifications like that. And from a system standpoint, today, when we are talking, I think we cater within import export more than 200 different scenarios, right? So somebody works within like, EOU concept, somebody has an FTZ, which is like free trade zone, somebody using different concepts of licensing, right? So some countries have a very different nuances in terms of like, working on a principle of incentives. So we have learned and kind of like we are trying to make sure that none of the global scenarios are missed out.
Mhm.
There are three, pillars we largely work on. And, when you talk about the use cases, first is the preventive, right?
Yeah.
We work on prevention in terms of no damages, no penalties, compliance, no issues in terms of notices, right? So we give them that cover in terms of the whole platform and the process that we work. The
Mhm.
next is the predictions, right? Because I'm using a system which is converting everything into data, right? Which is the oil of today, right? So that with data, what can I do? Can I look at landed cost, right, before the goods get into my, before I import it? Or can I look at landed cost before I export my goods, so that I can really look at my pricing the way, I need to price the goods. So how can I really look at better cash flows? How can I really look at better profitability and better customer experience, right? So this gives me predictions. Now, AI is bringing a lot of possibilities for me, right? And that's our third pillar. So we work on prevention, prediction, and possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and possibility is the third one, which basically helps me to think that tomorrow, in 5 years down the line, how the trade will look like, right? And it only happens when you have data, you
Mm-hmm.
have AI, and you have human in loop. These are the three intelligent systems really taking you to the next 5 years. That my tariffs in next 5 years gonna look like this. My industry is gonna look like this. This is how it's gonna change, and this is how the whole export's gonna change. This is how the import gonna change, and this is how the freight gonna look like, right? Because if every country starts doing $1 trillion worth of exports, then you know how this whole world will really look like. So that's where I think these are the three areas our product is based on, and these are the use cases in terms of today what we have worked upon and our customers are getting great cash flows, the kind of unlocking of cash they are doing from our AI agentic LC buyer LC feature is humongous. Some of the companies are unlocking 100 crores a month, right? That kind of efficiency. Today, I was doing $10 billion worth of exports. Today, with the same team and Trezix, I'm able to do $20 billion. So I'm, improving another 100% in terms of my productivity.
Mm.
Stakeholder management, right? Across my stakeholder, be it internal, external, I'm working with everybody's benefit, right? With single source of truth, getting them on the platform so that I can shrink the process for their payment timelines also. So if you look at, I'm actually in this whole community with Trezix benefiting everybody,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. Thanks for sharing this. I was also reading this on the website that your platform is able to reduce the cost by about 20%, increase efficiency by 40%. I think that's quite a tangible result for a technology platform. And yeah, I think that's great. But having said that, would also love to understand how is your platform integrating with the other systems. For example, I was reading this, your platform uses ULIP, which is a government of India initiative, Unified Logistic Interface Platform. So what kind of data sets you get out of it? How do you use it? And do other countries also provide similar platforms for you to work with?
Right. So let's talk about ULIP first, right? So ULIP we use very proactively. So for example, ULIP has informations related to, let's say, custom integration of ice gate, right? ULIP also has got how do you integrate with the FOIS, which is railway, right? Ports, right? So all movements, all documents, how do you integrate as part of your process at various stages of the process? Okay, GM, IGM, and a lot of other stuff, which is like right now it's a big struggle for anybody who's processing an end-to-end process. So how do you make sure real time whatever transactions are you're doing is also verified at that point in time with these fantastic source available from government of India? So that is, and like Sunil mentioned about proactive approach. How do you? So this is one of the example, right? So we do many such things with other regulators also.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk about similar thing, like for example, HS code, right? So globally, we are now having a sort of integration wherein more than 100 country HS code. We are online verifying, checking sanctions. Okay, restrictions. So those are like trade restriction, trade sanctions, and this is like ULIP. Apart from ULIP, also for rest of the world, we do a lot of rest of the country, rest of the transactions of the global transactions. We do a lot of such validations proactively, and this is where the whole regulatory framework proactively helps us.
Got it. Got it.
To be
Speaking
very
of,
precise, we have right now 134 countries kind of regulations getting integrated.
got it. Speaking of this global trade restrictions and tariffs and all, let's get to the abstract side of things a little bit, and let's talk about the next few years. Let's say next 4 to 5 years. How do you foresee the global logistics shaping up? Uh, where how will the AI play in a role, which it will, but also how do you foresee the borders getting stricter? And trade routes changing and so on, because you've been operating in this space for a long time.
So I'll start, and I think Sunil can add a lot of thing on top of it. But I'll put it two major thoughts, right? So one is, if you really see right now the geopolitical tensions, okay, which are the drivers, right? So one is the geopolitical tension. Second is the trade war. Every country is now worried about, like, the balance of payment and stuff like that. So if you see, this is not going to stop so easily. This is now just the beginning. And because of that, the regulatory norms are going to be very dynamic in nature. So earlier, if I have to give an example, like, in year once you will get a budget and the duties are fixed, and then that will stay for almost a year, right?
Right.
Now, every day, almost, you keep hearing that, okay, now the tariff has changed. Okay, the regulation life cycle has become shortened by almost like day-to-day living.
Yeah.
Yeah, the regulation was like, for a month, for a year, or at least for a year, which was gradually reduced to a month, and now it is like, anytime anything can happen. And
Yeah.
on the similarly, if you talk on a logistics side, I mean, even if you, like, negotiate the rates, if you put the material on the vessel, you're not still sure that what date it will reach, because what time from which route he has to reroute,
Mm-hmm.
because of, again, like, a lot of warlike situations and all those stuff. So that also has become very uncertain. So what now, I mean, what we see is like every minute you have to be alert. Now, being human, how much you will be, like, vigilant, how much monitoring you will do.
Right.
And for that also, if you put in, like, it takes a lot of time, and that's where systems like us are going to play a major role. We will be like, even if you're slipping, our our systems are like, monitoring what's happening to your
Mm.
transactions, what's happening to you, and how quickly we inform you. Okay, how quickly you are getting notified.
Yeah.
So that's how it's going to evolve, and that this is just a beginning. I say, like, it's going to get more and more complex,
Yeah, it's
and I
like
still can
overnight
have
you have to
more.
change your system. Like let's say Trump announces something, immediately you have to airlift a lot of iPhones to US because a new trade barrier has come. So how do you think technology players like you will be able to bring the required dynamism which you rightly mentioned to the whole globe? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where the experience and this is where the insights come and play a larger role, right? So with the kind of agility of the platform, the kind of experience and the kind of data we are building, okay, again, like, this is all going to help proactively. So, and classic example, you only said the global this trade reciprocal tariff. So the day it was announced in US, probably we were one of those companies, like, we were ready with the solution and we could demonstrate the same day how exactly the process is going to work.
Hmm.
And this is what the business expect, that okay, the changes are going to be very, very dynamic. Okay, now I'll give you a simple example, leave apart from US, but the dollar fluctuation, right? Every day it's happening, and every day exchange rates keeps changing. So our system is so integrated that okay, the moment the exchange rate change, the system gets, like, update. Whatever documentation you do with a real exchange rate. So you, whatever loss and gain, okay, you need to identify, you immediately identify. So those are kind of quick decisions you have to take, right? And most of the countries on the treasury side, on, like, by doing their dollar payments and all, they have to take quick calls. So how do you help them?
Got it. Got it. And this sort of agility in your platform, is it helping you to acquire new business? Because this export
Absolutely.
import business, these are all the stakeholders in this are very legacy stakeholder. They've been doing business for long, long time, and they would traditionally probably prefer a company which is which has always been there. For example, a SAP or a Oracle would be their preferred choice. But you being a new company, you can always demonstrate that how quickly you can change your platform and be agile with the new changes coming in. Is it helping you to gather more business?
Yes, absolutely. So see, again, if you talk about, and we are in large enterprise space, so they are very cautious about things, right? So if it's like, if your margins are affected in a big way, your margins are getting thinner. Where you will put your effort, you have to optimize, right? And for optimization, you need all this kind of technology so that you protect your margins. I mean, if you talk about FMCG, you have high volumes, but you have less margins. Okay. Similarly, you give an example of, like, for example, these iPhones, right? You have to ship immediately, time to market, like you don't have a time. So whether it's an through kind of like, by air or by sea or by road, any means of transport, whether it's a bulk, whether it's a break bulk, or you are having a container, or you have in couriers. I mean, the system should be able to handle any kind of mode of shipment, right? And that's where we come in, we play a role, where we want to make sure that no, whatsoever it takes, no way customer should think that I don't have a capable system. Okay, every possible scenario should be the system.
Got it. And finally, coming back to the initial top, I think this was shared by Sunil, that import export is a fourth pillar of the business, fourth pillar of the GDP. It is very strategic to any country, especially a growing country. I think all the countries which have become developed at some point of time, they did a lot of export to the rest of the world, and that's how they grew. We talk about Japan, China, even countries like Bangladesh, they all grew because they were able to export a lot of things to rest of the world. So, would love to hear your comments on the India story. How is India growing as a net exporter? Uh, what has been your experience around that? Make in India and sell to the rest of the world. How successful it has been, and how do you foresee the future? What is your prediction for the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think a Make in India export from, India, I think it's all have been there. I would say the kind of capability we have, I think entrepreneurship should take a leading role to make India the top exporter across the world, right? Look at software companies. Have you ever thought of creating products? Never. We always used to believe in products like SAP coming from Germany, Oracle coming from US. But today you look at India, Zoho,
Mhm.
Trezix,
Wow.
uh, and your Freshworks. These are the products, and there are many more products which basically are now becoming leading products and catering to international markets. So I believe, we have huge amount of talent, and I was privy to one of the, I would say, dialogues from Prime Minister Modi. That they will start building up the product capabilities across different states and see how they get exported to, other countries. So,
Right.
so I think in next, I would say 5 years, I'm very sure that we're gonna be very close to China in terms of, taking them away from the second position. And I think the way entrepreneurship is now following its feet to success, I believe that there'll be a lot of companies who will be creating products from India. And I'll just showcase a product to you, which is,
Yeah.
this, I use this product. It's an Indian product. It's
Mhm.
called Neo Sapient, right?
Okay.
It does nothing but if I need to record what we are, talking, it'll record and it'll throw me on AI, generative AI, and build the whole narrative for me. Now, these are being produced in India, right? So I think from that perspective, we will have a huge amount of play in terms of us being in those top, I would say top three exporters across the world. So that's where I see India. That's where I see entrepreneurship, and that's where I see, the young people taking a very different tack. That why can't we do it? And I think that's the approach, and that's the metal we need.
Got it.
Yeah. And just one point I'll add, right? So one initiative which is just recently launched by Government of India is 700 products, 700 cities, right? So
Hmm.
one city, one product, right? And whatever that specialty of that city. So there are a lot of such themes are getting built, right? So I think what Sunil said, so there are a lot of background readiness is happening, and I think that's the future, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Uh, Finally, before we end, would love to hear one message from each of you to all the entrepreneurs, especially those who are operating in the import and export space. To be honest, a lot of founders who operate in the export business, they tune into our podcast. So, one last message from both of you to these entrepreneurs.
So I would say keep at it. I think we have huge potential and we have good amount of backing in terms of what we can do. Most of the times when I hear in US AI is called as another Indian,
Hmm.
they have started accepting that yes, we are superior, in terms of our knowledge, in terms of what we can do, what we can achieve. I think we need to work a little on our presentation layer. And I think we will be unbeatable. So there's huge potential, for us to make it happen.
Wow. Harish, over to
Yeah,
you.
and to me, I keep saying one more thing, right? So just to age is not a bar. You can become an entrepreneur at any point in time. So we started almost like after putting 25 years in the corporate. Okay. And then we started this. So I think the lot of learnings what you have in your corporate lives, you know, a lot of pain points. You can identify those and you can actually come up with more matured and kind of like, proper approach and solutions which can benefit to the industry to a large extent. Because we have been in this industries for so long, we should reciprocate that in terms of coming up with some very good solutions.
Absolutely. All right. On this note, we'll close the session. Thanks for joining us, Sunil and Haresh. Pleasure speaking to both of you, and kudos to the work that for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Our
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
You take care.